What's going on, guys? Aaron from Top Tier Gaming here, and today I'm coming at you with another top 8 Marincess deck profile that I just got at the Fort Worth Regional. We were able to win the new mat, which I think looks extremely cool. Like the way they changed the text sort of at the bottom there is like pretty neat. I really like this mat. So I actually don't know the card that's even on the mat. I assume it's from Duelist Nexus, but just like the colors on the mat and like the zones, I think it's really cool. I really like the mat. But yeah, before we get into the deck profile, I do just want to quickly say that, you know, I'm sorry I've kind of been away for a while. I think it's been 2 months just about without an upload. And if you want to know the reason why, for the people who like follow this channel regularly, at the very end of the deck profile, I'll sort of give reasons why I haven't been uploading. But yeah, just to keep the profile kind of short for the people who just want to see the profile, I'm going to save that for the end of the video. So stay tuned if you want to know that. Now, before hopping into the actual deck profile, I do want to go over my rounds because some people tend to like hearing the rounds, and me personally, if I go back and like want to know what happened at the regional, I like to see the rounds part to like remember what happened. All right, as I started doing my rounds, I realized it was going to take way too much time, so the rounds will now be at the end of the deck profile. So wait till the end of the deck profile to see the rounds. And without further ado, let's get into this top 8 Marincess deck profile. Alright, getting into the deck profile, I'm going to be showing my 40 card main deck, my 15 card extra deck, and my 15 card side deck. This is, you know, a Marincess profile, and a lot of Marincess lists are very standard, so I won't be explaining the cards too much. If you want to see more about like what Marincess does, you can check out all my previous deck profiles. I have like 30 Marincess profiles on the channel, and another regional top 8 profile where I went a little more in depth, but I'm going to be going over the ratios more or less, and then sort of talking about how they perform for me at the tournament if I'm going to explain something rather than what they do, just because so many Marincess decks, you know, they look all pretty standard. So starting off with the Marincess monsters, we have the 3 Blue Tang. Blue Tang is just your best starter, so you want to open up with her most often as you can, so we are maximizing her at 3 copies. Then we have the 3 Spring Girl, which this is your best extender, so we're maximizing her as well. I'm maximizing almost all of the good Marincess monsters, all of the level 4s, so we have 3 Pascalis. I really like 3 Pascalis because she helps you play through things like Book of Moon and like Mirror Jade Banish, anything that would get rid of just your normal summon. Having a card like Pascalis is very good as just like one of your better extenders in the deck to play through things like that, and just get like bigger boards too. And she's also one of your best ways to play through Nib. Like, if you get nibbed and you can dive out a Pascalis either from deck or grave and use her effect to special 1 from hand, you can still make a rank 3, which is good for your wave. And by rank 3, I mean link 3. Then we have the 3 Seahorse, which Seahorse is one of your better starters, so we are maximizing her at 3. This list is not on Signet mining, so you want to see as many Marincess like actual monsters as possible. Definitely 3 Seahorse. She's also one of your better extenders if you're already playing. She gets dumped off of Blue Tang a lot as well, so yeah, 3 Seahorse, pretty standard. Then I'm on 2 Mandarin. I prefer 2 Mandarin to 3 Mandarin because I'm also playing a Vasilolima, which not everyone plays, but I think like this ratio is a lot better than 3 Mandarin because you're never really gonna need 3 of this except to open it, and then you have like a lot of normal summons. Like I already had a couple hands where I just drew too many normal summons. So instead of playing the 3rd Mandarin that doesn't add like any additional versatility besides just opening it more often, I'd rather play the Vasilolima, which provides something that no other Marincess card does, which is like protection and grave, which is really good versus runic decks like stopping flashing fire. It's good versus branded beast. It's good versus like anything that would destroy like a Lillipop, for example. It just depends like what's in the format, but like also Sword Soul Blackout. Anything that destroys, like this card can really save you, and it's come up super clutch for me a few times. Not this event, but yeah, personally, I prefer playing 2 Mandarin and Vasilolima to 3 Mandarin that some people enjoy. Sleepy Maiden was also in contention. I like playing Sleepy Maiden because it makes Argonaut more relevant. I can go for Argonaut lines more often. However, I decided not to play it for this event, just running more hand traps, because it does feel like there are just so many FTKs in the format with like Gimmick Puppet and then Crimson Dragon into Hot Red and things like that. I just don't really want to get FTK. There's like Eradicator as well, but that doesn't hurt this deck as bad. But yeah, there's a lot of FTKs, and I just would rather have another hand trap than a Sleepy Maiden. So 15 Marincess monsters means you have 15 1-card starters, and the goal is to open at least one of them so that you can play your deck. For Marincess spells and traps, I have 1 Battle Ocean, which is pretty standard. You pretty much always play one of this. Then we have the Double Dive. I like 2, some people play 3. I I prefer 2. Like, you're always going to have access to this card. Any Marincess monster can make Sea Angel, which can get Dive. So while opening it isn't bad because it means you can search Battle Ocean, you never want to open multiples, and you really don't want to see it without a Marincess monster. Like this card and Wave and even Battle Ocean, they're very similar to cards like Theosis and Birth, where they're insane cards, but if you see them without playable, they are just complete bricks and they don't provide like any interruptions like a Book of Moon, for example, would. So they can really make your hands bad. So yeah, I don't want to play 3 dive. One of the advantages is we're in a Droll format, so sometimes you can like hit this off Blue Tang, which is maximized if you run 3 copies, like the chance to see it, and then you could search Battle Ocean. That kind of plays around Droll a little bit, because you often go for Sea Angel with Tang, so you get 2 searches before they Droll you, and then Droll is almost irrelevant. And then I'm on 2 Wave, and a lot of my lists are on 1, but recently I've been on 2 because Droll has been more prevalent. I think if Droll is in the format, playing 2 of this is really strong because you want to either hard open it more or see it off Blue Tang more or mill it with Spring Girl more often. There was a couple of times where having 2 came up, but there was also times where I drew this card going second and it was a complete brick. So, you know, that's just the cost to pay with Wave. But yeah, overall, I was really happy with this lineup. Also, playing 2 of each of these is nice. I mean, 2 Wave in particular, because you're always playing at least 2 dive. But I'm running Pot of Desires, so that can come up for Wave, and obviously like Runic decks and Kashtira decks, they can banish your 1 Wave if you play 1. So playing 2, it's been nice. I think if the format calls for it and Droll is really popular, we have decks like Kashtira. 2 is perfectly fine in my opinion. I'm not a fan of 3, but I don't necessarily think it's wrong either. If you like to go that route, it's just not for me. And then last for Engine, I'm playing 2 Pot of Desires. This card is really strong because it's Pot of Desires. Like when you activate this card and resolve it, it's so powerful. There are some things with it that are tough. Like I just said, we're kind of in a Droll format where Droll is extremely popular, and Desires can be rough there. But your deck also like doesn't lose to Droll at all, which is one of the reasons I wanted to play Marincess, is it really doesn't care about Droll. So like even if you have this and you get Drolled, it's usually not a big deal. I got Drolled like 9 times yesterday, and nibbed like 5 or 6 times. So, but more particularly for Droll, it came up once where I had Desires and the Desires was dead because of Droll. But yeah, I think it's still worth to play this card. This card is insane. It's just 2 free cards essentially, and I never got messed up by the banishes either because it would have to banish like both dive or both wave to actually come up, and that just didn't happen. So I did banish my Battle Ocean once or twice, but that's not like the biggest deal in the world. Now on to the defensive cards. We're running 18, so we have like 22 engine cards, if you count Desires as an engine card, and 18 flex spots. So for my defensives, I played 3 Ash Blossom. This is pretty standard. I mean, it's Ash, like she's super good right now, especially to pair with your other hand traps. So we have the 3 Effect Veiler, and Veiler is very strong because it's not once per turn. So that is very nice, and you can use it multiple times, especially when you're going for your Heat Soul, which is Bubble Reef. You want to draw into hand traps, so drawing into multiple Veiler can be good as well. Veiler came in clutch quite a few times, and I didn't get Talents because Talents I don't think is very popular in this format. Obviously, some decks are still playing it, but because there are so many FTKs, Talents can feel kind of bad, so I didn't get Talents off of Veiler, so that was pretty fortunate for me. And then we have 3 Imperm. These are all of my low impacts. These are all just very consistent at what they do. Everything about this was nice. My effect negation were all not once per turn essentially, so Imperm as a 6th card is also good. This is all very standard, so these were my 9 like low impact hand traps. Then I was on 3 Nibiru and 3 Droll and Lockbird. These cards were either extremely solid or very mid, and that's how the high impacts usually work. Nibiru, I will say though, was insane all day. I nibbed like 5 or 6 times and it was insane every time I did it. Nibiru can be a little weird in this deck because if they can't out your Nibiru, you kind of turn off your triangle, which can stink. But as long as you have the follow-up set up properly in your hand, which you almost always will because you're playing Marincess, you know, it's very easy to actually OTK if you have a Nibiru on field. Now you gotta watch out with your own Zelantis because if you banish your Nibiru, it's not coming back. But yeah, Nib was insane for me, one of the best cards all day, which was kind of the adverse effect for my opponents, or my friends who were playing their opponents. They said Nib was terrible for them all day, so it was just sort of the matchups I played that made Nib good. It won me a game versus the Mikanko guy because he activated Slumber, and that was pretty big. And then of course I played decks like Marincess, I played decks like Heroes, I played Cash, I played like a bunch of Synchro Spam decks where if they can't like stop this before, or you have like Veiler or Imperm with it, it's insane. So Nib for me was extremely goated, awesome card. And then Droll, on paper, fantastic. I just never drew him when I needed him, and then I only drew him when my opponents either opened mid or not that many searches or drew all of their one-of pieces in their hands, like sort of round 5, game 3 against ABC, which I'll explain later. And yeah, Droll came clutch one time in round 9, and that was like the only time I remember Droll being actually insane. But I'd still play it right now, like you just don't want to get FTK'd by something, so yeah, 3 Droll, 3 Nib, so that's 15 hand traps, and then I wanted to play some board breakers with that, so I am also on the 3 Book of Moon. This card's just insane right now if you play against Cash or Pearly. I feel like this is where this card really shines. It's also not bad versus like the Synchro decks that are going for Crimson Dragon, because Book can help stop them from FTKing you there. Book was not that great going second for me because I didn't play but 1 Cash and I played no Pearly. Like none of the matchups Book of Moon really shines going second, but going first, this card was always insane, and if I get stopped on my play, it's always nice to set a Book of Moon, and you felt like it was going to stop one of their plays, so Book was solid, I'd continue playing it. Eclipse was another option, but I feel like if I played more Pearly and Cash, obviously I might have wanted Eclipse as well, but I didn't play that many of those, so just running the 3 books worked out fine, and again, I wanted more hand traps just because it feels like there are so many decks going for something like insane right now, so like Eclipse isn't helping me versus Gimmick Puppet, but maybe Droll or Nib might, right? So, yep, on to the extra deck, which is going to go by pretty quick because it's very standard except for like 2 cards. I'll go over those cards more in depth, I guess, but for the Marincess cards, we have the 2 Blue Slug, which is very standard, the 2 Sea Angel. Yeah, this is extremely standard. We have the 2 Anemone. Sometimes I want to play 3 of this because I do have boards or plays where I go for 2 Anemone turn 1 if I'm specifically playing around a Kaiju. So sometimes 3 of this comes up, maybe I'll consider it, but it's extremely rare for that anyway, so it might still just stay at 2. 1 Triangle, 1 Marbled Rock. Yeah, these are your Link 3s. They're both insane. Marbled Rock's actually probably my favorite Link 3 in the extra deck because she always comes up in the most clutch moments. Like anytime you really need like a card to win, like Marbled Rock for me is the one. Like my engine is out, so I need Marbled Rock, or I got Nibiru, so I need Marbled Rock. So she comes up clutch for me a lot, so she's one of my favorite in the extra deck. Then we're on the 1 Bubble Reef and the 1 Argonaut, which, you know, both of these came up clutch. I didn't actually make Argonaut until at least round 5 of the tournament maybe. So she comes up less often because I'm not on the Sleepy Maiden, but she came up huge in the rounds I did make her, and sometimes it was just to make Zelantis and then keep Bubble Reef. But one of the reasons why I want to play Sleepy Maiden again is I do like making Argonaut first because I like having Bubble Reef on the crackback, but if Bubble Reef survives your turn 1, you just get so much out of it because you get like 2 draws, a special summon, and Zelantis for free. So yeah, both of these are insane. Bubble Reef's a little better in my opinion, but Argonaut, especially in some matchups and game 2 and 3, she's extremely strong. So also her bounce effect came up for me to win a game. So that isn't super rare, but it's cool to note. Then I'm on 2 Zelantis. I think you have to play 2. This card is insane, and if you have 1 and you play versus Cash, this card is 100% gone. Yeah, Zelantis is probably just one of the best Marincess cards. It really is like a custom card. It does so much. The battle phase effect is actually one of the craziest things. And your best end board, in my opinion, is actually this Zelantis co-linked to a Link 2 or higher Marincess. Preferably a Link 3, but Link 2 will work if you set the wave. It becomes extremely difficult to out. Like I had Zelantis next to an Anemone, and I set the wave, and my opponent ended up going, he had Crystal Wing, and he summoned Regulus, but on Regulus effect, I waived the Crystal Wing. So we had Crystal Wing, Regulus, and then made an access code, but these are unaffected, so he can't pop anything, and then he went battle phase, and I just popped the Regulus and popped the Crystal Wing, and he can't like negate this effect with Regulus because he's unaffected because of the wave, and that's why that board is so strong. It's so hard for opponents to deal with. In fact, he had to think for like 3 or 4 minutes on that play just because it was so awkward for him to do anything because, you know, unaffected monsters and the battle phase pop comes up really clutch there. So yeah, Zelantis, absolutely insane, and I play 2. Then we have 1 area, which this is usually how I play around Nibiru, or things like potentially dinosaur tokens and things like that just to get them off the board. I really like area as well because if you play against a mirror match, which is becoming a little more popular, and like Meek is a water, there's a few waters in the format like that. If you play against Sprite, they have beavers. This can come up, any Cyber deck that makes Splash Mage, you can take that as well. Salad just got their support, so maybe Splash Mage, you'd see it more often. That didn't come up for me, but really she's just there for like, if you get nibbed and can put 2 bodies on the board, you can make area with nib token in a body and then use your other Marincess body in the area to make Marbled Rock after you get nibbed, which is sort of how you play around that. So area I feel is mandatory. Although you can also play like Splash Mage, which I wasn't playing. But maybe I'll try to add Splash Mage in the future. Maybe over this card, I played a Lingeribo. A lot of Cash players and Sprite players, I felt like they were switching to Ibly. Like I'd seen its usage go up a little bit, and I heard people talking that Ibly was going to be more popular. And I didn't want to lose to Ibly, so I put Lingeribo in my extra deck, which I've never done in Marincess before. And I didn't make him all day, but you know, my thought process is he was in my extra deck, and I didn't make him all day, and that's fine. But if he wasn't in my extra deck, I guaranteed would have played 9 rounds of Ibly decks. So, you know, that's the cost of Lingeribo. I didn't get Iblied, and that's what matters, but this card's kind of fake. Like, you're not going to make it more often than not. But yeah, I was just afraid of Ibly, so I played the Lingeribo. And then Kragan, which this card is goated. Like, I was thinking about playing the Bahamut Shark stuff, but I decided to take out Shark and Toad for this package. And Kragan's something I played a lot in the past. I'm not running Gozen match or anything, but I think Kragan is very good, especially for instances to OTK when you've like, they have big bodies and you can do extra damage. And then really insane when you get Shifter. This is my favorite thing when you get Shifter, is being able to make Kragan, because at least you get somewhere. And you need Pascalis to do that. But it's like really, really strong. Well, you need Pascalis or either both Battle Ocean and Dive, essentially. And yeah, Kragan, very good for Shifter. And that's where he comes to the most. And he did get me a draw instead of a loss because I was able to make him under Shifter. So Kragan is absolutely insane. My preferred rank 4 for sure. On to the side deck, which I think could have used some more work, maybe, but I feel like my side deck was prepared for like very specific things. More Cash and like Labyrinth and more like Pearly maybe. But I just didn't play against those, so a lot of the cards in my side deck didn't really work for the matchups I did play, because it was a very varied spread, so a very varied spread. I don't like that. It was a varied spread. Yeah, I'll show my side deck, but it didn't really do too much for me this event, except for a few cards. So we have the 3 Gamma Seal. This was, again, for more Cash and Pearly. I sided in once all day versus Kashtira, and I didn't see it, so yeah, there were a couple of times where I thought about siding it, but again, a lot of the decks I were playing, like the Synchro decks and the Dragon Link decks, I was afraid of more of like FTK stuff than like needing to break a couple of strong monsters on board, so I didn't really side Gamma Seal for those matchups as much. These were very specifically for like Pearly and Dragon Link, and I just didn't really, or Kashtira, and I just didn't really play against many of those. Bell was pretty good because I just wanted more hand traps, so oftentimes if I felt like my opponent was going to go for something crazy, I'd side out like Book of Moon for Bells, just as more hand traps. And I played against a lot of Brave decks. Like I played 2 Brave decks, the Brave Assault Synchro Tengu deck and the Revolution ABC deck. So this was for Enchantress as well. But this was for Branded and for Labyrinth the most. Luckily I didn't play against any Labyrinth, but that's what this was really for. And maybe a mirror match. Bell's pretty good in the mirror. And Math Mech, potentially, if you play against that. Now, the card that came up in my side deck the most, and was definitely the MVP of the side deck, was the 3 Cosmic Cyclone. This card was insane. This was really my go first card, because once I get to my other go first card, I didn't side it in one time all day, but I was siding in Cosmic almost every game. It's just like so good versus things like Dragon Link and all the Brave decks I was playing. Like hitting Fateful with this is insane. Hitting like Boot Sector or Ravine with this is insane. And then I sided it going second for Floodgates a lot as well. It just felt like Cosmic was going first more than almost any other card. There was actually a couple matchups where I sided out Book of Moon for Cosmic, like the Mikanko matchup. Just things like that. If I was going first into Mikanko, like setting Cosmic is much better than setting Book, because Huli just makes him untargetable. But yeah, Cosmic it overperformed. It was the best card in my side deck, and I didn't even play against a trap deck besides Trap Tricks. But Cosmic was just insane. Then I played a Feather Duster and 1 Lightning Storm. I only had space for 1 Lightning Storm, but it really just acted as a second Feather Duster. I didn't draw Lightning Storm all day, but I drew Feather Duster twice, so, you know, it's technically a 2 of, so that's, you know, makes sense. 1 Called by the Grave. This was for going first into Shifter decks, just in case I sack into Called by the Grave. I might be able to stop Shifter. It's also for going second against Dragon Link. If you hit seals with this card, it feels like an FTK, so yeah, Called by the Grave felt good. We are in more of a hand trap format as well, so I felt pretty good with this card. I sided it in like 4 or 5 times, but I never drew it, and that's just how it goes sometimes. And then the go first card I did have was the 3D Barrier, but I didn't side this in at all. Just never sided in, it just never felt good. This was for like Pearly and the Synchro decks, but the Synchro decks I did play, like the Revolution ABC deck, was really going for fusions and links and everything. This could have been good versus the Synchro Tengu guy, but it didn't really come up because I think I did cite it in actually and just didn't draw it. Or he was going for something that it didn't really matter, but yeah, it just didn't come up all day. So Cosmic was like my real go first side. But I did want to play this over Gozen because if you do play versus Pearly or Vanadium or something like that, this card is absolutely bonkers. I think it's just really solid right now overall. It doesn't lose to board breakers as well. And Cosmic's really popular too. So yeah, I liked the D-Barrier. In theory, it just didn't pan out for me. But yeah, that was it for the deck profile, and now I'll get into talking about my rounds and why I haven't been uploading recently. So round 1, I actually played against Mikanko, which I haven't been like uploading videos for a while, but in my spare time, that's the deck I've actually been testing is more Mikanko, and I think the deck's really strong. I just think there are like too many FTKs in the format to really, for me to want to take it to a regional and like really trust it's going to do well. But it was kind of unfortunate for him because I could have been like one of the very few people in the room that actually knew like what Mikanko is trying to do. And then game 2, I won game 1, game 2, he made me go first, and I knew he would because that's what Mikanko does. And I sided for going second, and my first turn was just pass. Like I just say pass, I go to end phase, do nothing. I know he has almost 0 ways to actually OTK me through that. And then on the crackback, when it's my turn 3, I have go second cards now. So I'm able to like Harpy Feather Duster his back row, which he had a TC Boo, which would have been bad. And we just win from there. So kind of unfortunate for him. His hands were really good. So yeah, I think he probably did well at that event just because Mikanko is strong as long as you don't get OTK'd and people don't know what your cards do. So that's always great. Round 2, I played against Cash. And this was my draw for the day. I went X1-1. I have all the stuff showing on screen, like the records and whatnot. So yeah, round 2, I played Cash. Game 3, we had like 5 minutes left, and he made me go first. So, or no, we had 5 minutes when going into siding. Starting to play, we had like 2 minutes left. He made me go first. He shifters me, and I have Spring Girl in hand, so now I can't use Spring Girl to inflict any burn damage. So I Desires, and I draw Pascalis off my Desires. I'm able to go Pascalis into another level 4, make Stealth Kragan, and then he's in a weird spot where he can't really play because Kragan inflicts burn damage. So it goes to his turn, he summons Scareclaw Kashtira, which has 0 attack, so Kragan does nothing. But he's forced to go battle phase, to which I say, yeah, that's completely fine. He kills my Kragan. But yeah, we can't inflict any damage, the time runs out, and, you know, that's a draw. So, you know, that happens sometimes where, you know, Shifter's a crazy card, and in his instance, he couldn't really have a book or an imperm for the Kragan, so it happens. Round 3, I've actually played against Marincess, except he was on sort of a different build. It definitely was running some interesting tech choices. He had like Deep Sea Minstrel, and he was running Ice Jade Adrian and things like that. It didn't really pan out for him, and we were able to swiftly get a 2-0. I think our match was like 5 minutes. Before I get further, I also want to say all of my opponents all day were extremely cool. Like I was able to have conversations with all of them, like sometimes not even about Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. Like I had an opponent where we just talked about RuneScape actually, which was very funny. And yeah, all of my opponents were extremely nice, extremely cool, so I do want to mention that. Round 4, which was after our lunch break, I played against my friend Trey, who was on Heroes, but he was actually late from his lunch break, and you know the judge rolled by when he wasn't there, signed the slip for a game loss because it had been 4 minutes, which, you know, the game loss was at 3 minutes, but Trey was 4 minutes late. So unfortunately, my friend took a game one loss, and then he chose to go first, and I was able to like imperm Stratos, and then the game was pretty much over from there. Like he didn't have enough gas to really push through the interaction with his hand. I know he opened like the poly and opened the plasma, so that's pretty unlucky, but yeah, we take a swift like 1-0 over Heroes, I guess. Round 5 is actually my loss for the day. I played against Revolution ABC, which this deck, if it goes off, is insane. Game 1, he went first because I lost like almost every die roll. And he set up a crazy board that I kind of broke, but then Draco back on the crackback was able to FTK me. Then game 3, essentially, I'm going first because he made me go first. And I open no Spring Girl, so I know I'm pretty much playing for a draw at this point with how much time we have left on the clock. And I make like a Marbled Rock, and then I have like 4 hand traps. But the way his hand is, he just had like the perfect hand to play through my hand traps. Like he went Union Hanger, I ashed because I'm trying to keep him off of Buster Dragon, but he just normals B and equips C. I'm like, okay, he specials the C, makes Platinum Gadget, and he goes effect to special A from hand. And I Valor, and he changed the Mechanized Quick Play spell to equip an A from deck, which like negates my Valor. And he's still able to make a Buster Dragon through my interrupts. So he's still able to win the game, so I lose in time there. Round 6 was Trap Tricks. One of the only notable things about this game was Game 3, we both drew like a pretty no engine hand, so we had to wait a couple turns to actually see engine. I know my first hand was like 5 flex spots, or like a wave and 4 flex spots, something like that. But luckily we were able to bring that one out. Round 7, I played against Assault Brave Synchro with Reborn Tengu in it, and this deck was really cool. This was actually my only real die roll win of the day, because the other die roll win I had was versus Mikanko, but they want to go second anyways, so it didn't really feel like a win. But yeah, the most notable thing from this game, Game 1 I played through double Nibiru, which is kind of good, because that can be tough, but yeah, or like I played through Nibiru one turn, and then I played through Nibiru on the crackback and was still able to win, which some people will think is like really hard to do in Marincess, and it is, but my hand was able to play around it. Round 8, I played against Dragon Link, and Game 1, his hand was really weird, and it was just make Borreload Savage, set 3 pass. Turns out he had 3 Infinite Impermanence set, and it didn't really do anything either. Like I impermed his Savage, and then I summoned Pascalis, he impermed. I made Blue Slug target Pascalis, he impermed. I special Seahorse, made Sea Angel, he impermed. I special Mandarin from my hand to the Sea Angel zone, and that's still like your entire full combo through 3 imperms. So I thought that was very funny. That the imperms didn't really pan out. But his hands were not great, like at all. He didn't really get a good hand Game 1 or 2, so we're pretty much able to sweep that one up pretty quick as well. And then Game 3 of Round 9, Round 9 was my craziest match all day. Game 3, he sets up like a board we're getting close to time as well, so the previous turn, he had stopped my play and I set a wave, and then he makes a play. He could have gone for game, but I think his thought process was like, it's better to set up a board. He didn't want to lose to Nibiru or any of the hand traps he knows Marincess plays, so he goes for a play where he sets up like a really good board, but he doesn't go for the OTK. And this gives me an opportunity to like come back and win. And I had to do so much on that last turn where I had that wave set and I was able to play to a point where I made Coral Anemone, and then he goes Seal's effect, and I'm able to use my set wave targeting one of his Magnamoots that's on board, and then Seals can't bounce my unaffected Anemone anymore. And then I continue playing. My Tang is able to hit the field spell, which means my Sea Angel can search dive. And then he tries to summon Druis Worm and then try to pop it with Tracer, but my Anemone had already added back the wave again, so I'm able to wave the Tracer. So I used wave like offensively to like protect my board twice in this turn, which was pretty cool. And I have to OTK that turn or else I lose because, you know, time's going to be called. So I end up going for Zelantis, and then after banishing the entire board, I make the Blue Slug that I didn't use in my combo, which is important if you're trying to OTK not to use either Sea Angel or Blue Slug. You need one of those. At least usually the way I OTK, I do. And I'm able to make a Blue Slug over the Zelantis because I put Zelantis in like zone 4, so it's under an EMZ, and then I'm able to put a Blue Slug above it. And then equip, and then I have a Sea Angel in attack, and I dive out a Spring Girl. So that's enough to go for game. In battle phase though, he does have Magnamoot, but of course I have Zelantis pop, so we're still able to OTK, which is, OTKing in Marincess is not easy. You need like the right hand, and this is one of the situations in my previous deck profiles where I said like Mandarin sometimes is really important for the OTK lines. And yeah, like Mandarin definitely came up clutch for that as well. So yeah, that's it for my rounds. I think after saying all my rounds, I'm actually going to leave this for the end of the video because that was just too much talking. Some people just want to see the deck, and that's fine. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the deck profile. Now I'm going to get into talking about why I haven't really been uploading. So I think it's been almost 2 months without a video, either 2 months or almost 2 months. And there's a couple reasons. One, like work has been pretty busy, so yeah, I've been getting my butt kicked at work. Like we were just in the busy season, and I come home and I just kind of want to chill. Like I don't want to spend an hour like getting a profile ready or doing like a tier list and then having to edit the tier list because I edit all my own videos, I make my own thumbnails, and then the uploading process. Like it all takes like quite a bit of time out of my day. And just with work being so busy, one of the reasons is like I just want to chill when I get home. But part of that, and the more real answer is the way I've been wanting to chill is I got back into old school RuneScape, and that game is a time sink. For any of you that know, if you really want to play like old school, you have to devote so much time to RuneScape. So along with like the gacha game I've been playing, Nikkei, do your dailies, that takes like an hour. You play old school RuneScape for like 6 hours and you're like, wow, time for bed. So yeah, my hobbies have just been a little diverted recently, especially when we were in this off season after Worlds. Like, you know, there's not a lot of drive for Yu-Gi-Oh! Right after Nationals format in this Worlds kind of off break. So hopefully, you know, as time keeps going and I, you know, get the new off of the hobbies I've been onto recently, like RuneScape, yeah, hopefully we can get back into the swing of things. Don't know exactly when that will be. I just also haven't really had anything I wanted to upload. That's another thing. But yeah, I'm super sorry about that because every time I go to these regionals, I meet all my fans that are like, oh my god, I love your channel, and you know, it feels really bad that I haven't been uploading for me, but yeah, we will be back. I'm just on a little break right now, so the channel will come back in full force eventually. Hope you guys stay tuned for that, but yeah, thank you for everyone who watched, and you know, hope you enjoyed the deck profile. This has been Aaron from Top Tier Gaming. Bye, YouTube.